Another Sunday evening means yet another Auburn Experience podcast, live stream, and recording. We've got episode 82 coming your way. We got a lot to talk about. Auburn baseball in the transfer portal. We're also going to discuss Auburn potpourri and plenty of other things that are going to be on tap in this episode. Sit back and enjoy the show. Here we go. Well, War Eagle Auburn family and a special War Eagle, and welcome to those of you that consider yourselves part of our E2C Network family, the best little family within the Auburn family. Thank you so much for joining us, whether you're watching live on the replay, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, all the different places, times, multiverses with which you can get this content. We appreciate you being here, hanging out with us, and spending some time being a part of this family. My name's Kyle. That's Austin. We got a lot to discuss. Welcome back, buddy.
Thank you, sir. 1 week after I get a TV and try and be fancy with my setup, I'm in a completely different scenario. You would laugh if you saw my setup right now. But no matter what, it works, and I'm glad to be here.
Listen, I'm going to give a shout out to one of the OG E2C Network folks, Tristan Madden. You have no idea who he is, Austin, but like it was the original crew, part of the trio that started all these shenanigans over a decade ago. He literally was recording in the closet at one point. So there is no shame.
I was not far from doing a closet.
It's something that you just have to pull off any way that's possible when you got a podcast to do, right? Because there's plenty of Auburn things to talk about. And even if you have to do it in a closet, in the corner of your room with your family staring at you awkwardly across the room while you're doing that, we pull it off any way that we can possibly do it.
That's how we do it.
That's how we do it. So we got a lot to get into. In about 4 minutes here, we'll start our official live recording of this show. For anybody that is watching live, you can take the opportunity to kind of get geared up, ready for the show, post comments or questions that you might want us to address very quickly at the start of the show. I will be staying after the show to hang out with you guys for just a few minutes. So make sure if you're worried about not getting your comment or question addressed, stick around for after the show, and we'll get things started here in just a little bit. And of course, some of our people are already doing. Make sure you smash that like button. Let us know where you are checking in. Austin, I know school is in session in Auburn right now, but is it pretty dead?
Summer school, yeah. Yes. No, it's pretty dead. We get to go places to eat downtown and can plan around a considerable time. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty dead. Now Emily and I saw a play at the Gouge Theater on Thursday night. Thursday night. And we were driving back through town down Donahue back home, and we saw groups of people everywhere. And there was a giant high school cheerleading competition going on in Beard Eves, and there were little groups of cheerleaders everywhere. It was like 9 o'clock at night. So it's dead, but there's people making their way through here every now and then. And tons of Camp War Eagles all the time. It feels like there's 3 a week.
Yeah. I mean, I saw them as early as about 4 weeks ago. I was stopping in Auburn for what was the unofficial first day of preparations for construction for the new video board. I saw them walking, up, I forget what road it is, but with the signs in hand and things like that. Yeah. I mean, they cranked them things out like nobody's business. It's pretty wild to see.
You have no reason to not be able to make a Camp War Eagle at this point. I mean, there is literally, it feels like 50 a summer.
I forget what they called it for students transferring in from somewhere else.
It's like SOS, but I don't know what that stands for.
Yes, that sounds right. And I had to go through it. And I remember it being so much low key than what they have to go through. I think we had to come to like one thing on campus, and that was about it.
Yeah.
If that even. And I don't know. So I can't attest to what it's like now, but I kind of wish that I had been able to go through Camp War Eagle, to be honest with you.
One day I'll have to give my experience at Camp War Eagle.
It's summertime, so we may need it early.
Yeah, we might have to work that in. It was an adventure, to say the least.
I think that we're going to put that on the calendar here. I'll remember that one for when we're scrounging for topics to talk about. WT says summertime was always the best time to be in class. I was there when Auburn was still on the quarter system. That is such a foreign concept to me.
Yeah.
It's just weird. And being there in summer was always great. I also enjoyed summertime in Auburn, going to class, and you can just get in not involved in more things, but more things are open. The rec center wasn't always packed, as packed as it would be during the regular fall and spring semesters and stuff like that. So if you've never experienced Auburn in the summer as a student, it's definitely a little bit different. But as a resident now, Austin gets to see both sides of it since he's done it all the way around now.
It's special.
It is quite special. Speaking of special, we got a special show for you tonight. So we're going to get started here with our live recording. We are going to do a 30 to 45-minute show for you all, somewhere in that range, with 3 segments, which will start with Auburn potpourri. Then we will begin with our first topic tonight, which is going to be another Mount Rushmore segment. The best Auburn guards, going to be Auburn basketball guards, I should be clarify on that. And then there's going to be a last segment on Auburn baseball's transfer portal and the state of the roster kind of conversation. So
what a riveting segment the Mount Rushmore of Auburn football guards would be. Look, let's just
don't push me. Don't push me. I might do it.
We're not doing that. I'm vetoing that.
Hey, top of the list, Mike Berry, Byron Isom. I know for a fact they are 2 of the best guards just because they could pull like nobody other.
Well, that's our Mount Rushmore. We blew up the other 2 presidents. That's all we're doing.
Sorry to all the Auburn football guards out there. Austin says you're not worried of doing a Mount Rushmore.
Look, this is a business. I'm sorry.
It's got to keep it in order here. All right, let's get into it here and get the show started. Are you ready, sir?
Yes, sir. I'm ready.
In 3, 2, 1. David Housel described it best. We are living the whole of the Auburn experience. You can quantify it. You can qualify it through a variety of methods, time, people, places, things. But at its heart and at its core, it is all about Auburn sports, all about Auburn culture, and of course, the Auburn family. With his hand over his heart and here standing at attention, ready to go, part of that family, my co-host Austin Scott alongside me, your host Kyle. Welcome back to the show, episode 82, Mr. Scott.
Thank you. I didn't take my hat off. I hope you'll forgive me for not being respectful for your intro.
It would be very awkward watching you take the headphones off.
It'd be a disaster.
And you're already in a different location as we addressed pre-show. It's been a wild night for you.
This is a good one to just listen to, folks. Don't bother watching. I know you're all excited about my TV. It's still there. It's just we had a last minute visual change here, but yeah, I'm doing well. Hope you're doing well, Kyle. Episode 82. There's no one else I can think of except the man who was like 44 years old playing receiver for Auburn, Melvin Ray. Saved us against Jacksonville State, scored a touchdown in the national championship game. I loved that guy. One of those underrated guys, when you're just sitting around with the boys naming random Auburn players, Melvin Ray's a good one to bring up.
Called the helicopter because he literally just came down out of nowhere and just made catches that you're like, wait a minute, I forgot about Melvin Ray, that he's even on the team. Right. But just, like you said, felt like he was there forever and was Mr. I don't mean it like that. But
I think he was older though, wasn't he?
Yes, he was, but I don't mean it like that. I'm just saying old reliable. Melvin Ray, the helicopter coming out of nowhere, especially in big moments like the championship game. So there you go. It's a good one to start off with to honor for 82. Let's get into Auburn potpourri. This is probably one of those weeks in Auburn potpourri where there's not 1,000 things we can talk about, but there's some bigger items we can discuss. Let's start off by, again, even though we've addressed it, I believe, both on the last episode, welcoming officially some new head coaches to Auburn athletics programs. They had their introductions this past week and got to have a press conference, each of them, for their respective sports. You have got Coach Jordan Zabo. I'm learning to pronounce all of these correctly now for women's tennis. And then we had our co-head coaches for softball, Chris and Kate Malvo, they've already decided, but having their introduction for this role that they're now taking on at Auburn. So it was great to hear all of them speak. I think it was a very refreshing take for both of those programs and seeing the new faces and prospects for what they see as the future with them at the helm of these programs. So I was super excited to hear from them.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't see how you can walk away from both of those press conferences or quote sessions and not see their energy and their excitement for taking over these programs. I loved the quotes we put out at E2C Network on social media. I think those were some of the highlights for sure. So go check those out. But these are people who are excited, ambitious, and want to dive on into everything the Auburn experience is and instill that in their program. So hey, look, the softball coaches have already put in the work. They've already brought in some people to be a part of that Auburn experience.
It's almost like we talk pre-show and almost like we set this up.
Don't do that. Just let them think we're that smart.
No, we're not that smart. That's the shtick of the show is they see that we fumble through words. We say awkward things. Your camera drops off in the middle of the show.
Okay, that was never in the middle of the show.
Technically, everything is part of the show, even if it's after the show, because I'm still recording. With that in mind, let's discuss what you just brought up, because our women's softball coaches went straight to work. They talked about taking this thing seriously, obviously, but it's one thing to talk about it. It's another thing to do it. They identified that, yes, there is a need for some more help in the pitching ranks. Not that there's not people and talent available here at Auburn when they arrive. They address that, but there is going to be a need to bring some people in. And Austin, if you're going to go to any program in the college softball world to go get somebody, where would you go?
Oh, Oklahoma, no doubt.
Why would you go
to four-time national champions?
Thank you. Do I need to say any more?
No, I don't think so.
I mean, that's all, just literally, and I even said this throughout I'm so happy to have our current co-head coaches here, but I just said during the coaching searches, all that, just if somehow they're associated with Oklahoma, I want them over here. So now we've got a player formerly associated with Oklahoma, will come in, I believe, as a redshirt freshman. So maybe sophomore. Essentially, has had some college experience already. SJ, you going to help me with the last?
We're gonna say Guerin.
SJ Guerin.
Look, if you thought we were professionals, just wait till by the end of the show. We're gonna have a lot of names we're pronouncing. That's just, we're already off to a bad start. So, Miss SJ, I'm very sorry if we are butchering your last name.
But SJ, we are so excited to have you here as part of the program. Obviously, with the pedigree, I'm sure that you getting Oklahoma's attention. I mean, that alone speaks of itself. Replacing Maddie Pinta is not anything that anybody wants to necessarily have to walk in the footsteps of. But what a challenge, what an opportunity, what an act to follow. So whether it's her, whether it's somebody who's currently here, somebody that's coming, this is a great start in the Malveaux era of Auburn softball and building up their vision of what the pitching staff might be for the next couple of seasons, especially if this particular one has some time to participate with us. Let's talk about other commits, because I know that there is a lot of interest around football recruiting, especially during the summer. No, folks, we're not talking about Juju Lewis. My goodness, just chill out. It's the new Ryan Williams. But we are going to talk about ones that actually have happened, have committed, and obviously they still have to sign on the dotted line. But for Auburn football, this week was pretty big. And last week, with that great weekend they had, was great too. But we're talking about a flip from the state of Pennsylvania, more specifically from Power 5 foe in Penn State, who we've seen recently, the Nittany Lions, who originally, some could argue, stole Alvin Henderson, running back prospect from Elba, Alabama, from us. And give it a little bit of time, never give up. And before you know it, you're just flipping people from Penn State to come stay home, I think is the more accurate way to say it, Austin. So that was an exciting thing to see this week.
Yeah, I think that was one a lot of people have been waiting on for a while. It's been pretty obvious the football staff has prioritized Alvin Henderson for a long time. And been after him. I think back in April, maybe when he announced his commitment to Penn State, there were some folks that were like, "No, this will not be over for very long." So that's good to finally get him in the boat. We always like to have those big guys, and you always hope those big guys recruit for you on top of the coaching staff. So Alvin Henderson looks talented, and hopefully he continues the legacy of Auburn running backs that have been very successful.
And a lot of people have asked why, what was the switch, or why did he even go to Penn State in the first place? That's quite a haul. I mean, it's a Power 5 school, and if they get interest from somebody, they show them what they're wanting to see. That It just doesn't really matter sometimes about locale, but obviously that doesn't hurt. And I'm sure helped convince him to flip back over here. You look at maybe some opportunities that are coming up in the next couple of years in the running back room. More familiar now with Derek Nix after Cadillac Williams left as running back coach. It makes a lot of sense. And hopefully we're going to be seeing him a lot out there as a running back for Auburn in the coming years. So happy to have him as part of this class. Finally, I want to throw you a curveball, Austin, something I just thought about.
But we just talked about how we talked pre-show, we plan, or we're
it's okay. You're gonna like this one. You're gonna like because this is Auburn potpourri, and while it is still sports related, it's a little bit off there. We're all excited for July. A certain game is coming. We're all excited about that prospect. But one of the things that we've often wondered about with this new edition of college football, now NCAA 25, college football 25. What Auburn elements will be in the game.
Oh, yeah.
See, it's coming back.
Yep.
And if you played the previous iterations of this game, Auburn's fight song was not Auburn's fight song. It was one of their secondary songs, Tiger Rag. Maybe they played Glory, Glory, I believe.
They did. Had to explain this to Emily this week. She was very, very confused.
But the university officially confirmed, and I think this is the first time it's been officially confirmed this week, that yes, the Auburn band and the song will be in the game. They are literally in the game, Austin. Get pumped.
In the game. Yeah.
That was a good
try. I mean, I tried my best. No. Yeah, like I explained to Emily, this song is not necessarily owned by the university. It's still owned by the estate of one of the lyricists or composers or something like that. And so it's always been, I don't know what their reasons for not allowing it in the game in the past or what has changed since then to now, but it will be in the game. And it sounds like the first down song. I don't like to call it that, but all know what I mean when Auburn gets first down and the band plays. Bum, bum, ba, dum, bum, bum. And so we'll all be in the game. So that's exciting from an Auburn flair of this game. And I can't wait. I can't wait to play and be in Jordan-Hare Stadium and hear all the things I would normally hear on game day.
Can I just ask for you to hum our little intro from now on, just like you did for that? I mean, that was outstanding.
Our little intro, like that's
just like you, or just whatever you want to do. I'm instead of having intro music for.
I sound like the road thing, the bump. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. That's a deep cut for some Auburn fans. I don't know if they're aware they're going over that thing.
Emily got really mad at me that I missed it the other day.
I think that almost removes your Auburn card from you if you're aware of what it is.
Gosh.
I'm just saying. And
if you miss it, okay. People are gonna go find this and they're gonna be like, "What these guys? We got to get Austin back in his normal location."
With that, we're gonna end Auburn potpourri and move on into the bulk of our show. We have got two great topics coming up for you. First, we're going to talk about one of my favorite things of all time, a Mount Rushmore segment. The best Auburn basketball guards, officially, of all time. Basketball guards. And then we're going to talk about Auburn baseball's roster, specifically about the transfer portal. Big topic number one tonight. I am excited, Austin, that we are getting to do this again. The Mount Rushmore of Auburn series. When we conceived this thing together and came up with this concept and how nuanced we could get with it, sports or not, coming up with the ultimate Mount Rushmore of Auburn stuff. Now, we're a long way from officially naming the official Mount Rushmore.
Oh, yeah.
Of it all. We are still in the weeds to this date. We have done a Auburn quarterbacks Mount Rushmore. We have also done the Auburn academic buildings Mount Rushmore. So both of those segments are out there. Today, we present to you the Auburn Mount Rushmore of Auburn basketball guards. How do you feel about this one, Austin?
I'm good with it. You threw me a little curveball pre-show that I'm a little worried I'm going to have to defend, but I'm ready for it. There's going to be, this is, the quarterbacks one, we had, a couple that were just like, we're both in agreement on totally. Right. And it was easy to kind of start out this with our audience and with you and I, this could go a variety of ways. So I'm interested to see where you land. I'm interested to see the feedback we get to.
Right. So I think that it's a great segue into what I want to mention to you, the listeners, you, the viewers of this segment. Remember, This is our subjective opinions of this, and you are going to have a different one, which is why we want to hear from you.
Hey, opinions are okay. It's a free country.
Some of them are. You're allowed to have them, but some of them stink. I should know because most of mine do.
Just like buttholes. Everyone has one, but they're allowed to stink. They all stink, actually. He's speechless.
I don't know what to do right now. I'm so uncomfortable. I'm going to try to work through that. All right. The Mount Rushmore of Auburn basketball guards. Here we are.
Would you like to go first?
I was trying to give my caveats before you threw that out there. I want to give people kind of my thought process through this. We're going to obviously do forwards and what we'll call either centers or the big men of Auburn basketball at some point. That's kind of how I envision this. So you're probably not going to agree with some of our choices for guards, or think more so you're going to think that there should be some people included that we're not. Remember, this is our opinion. We want to hear from yours. Some things that I'm thinking of personally in my factors, my parameters for this are, it's a very loose kind of parameter of if you are 6'4" and below. It doesn't necessarily have, that's in height, have to be that way. It's my personal opinion. I'm looking hard at the number of retirees, who's who in the record books for some guard statistics, longevity here at Auburn, also legacy involvement. Now that can mean what they accomplished here at Auburn, post Auburn, how they represent things. You'll understand why I've kind of thought about some of these ways, especially when we get into other areas of Auburn basketball.
And these are things you thought of, right?
Yes, but
we were not both given these, so I'm just referencing that right now. That mine's a lot more of just Austin's thoughts.
I think Austin's getting nervous about his.
I am.
How about this? You want me to go first?
I do.
Okay,
just one at a time. We can do one at a time.
Do you want me to just send up the softball?
Yeah.
Okay, softball. I don't know if you'll agree with me here, but I think it's a softball. John Mengelt.
Yes, I have John Mengelt.
Is that no question? He's
That's
on.
No question. No question.
This is the Cam Newton, or excuse me, for the quarterbacks, this is Cam Newton's on it, no matter what.
No question.
If you haven't learned about John Mengelt, actually, Andy Burcham has done a podcast recently with him. Great podcast.
Agreed.
Love history, all that stuff. Go listen to him. It's well before our time, Austin. So obviously we're not going to be as versed on John Mengelt, but we can.
Had a 60 burger, people. 60.
Yes. If you're not understanding what he's referencing there, 60 points in a game.
Against the other school in the state. So we'll take it.
Which shouldn't be hard to do sometimes because,
And that was before 3-point line.
That's true. I forgot about that element. So John Mengelt, if he's not on your Mount Rushmore of Auburn basketball guards, you're incorrect. We said it was opinion based.
Yeah, that really does stink if he's not on your Mount Rushmore.
Is that too easy? Should I go again, or do you want to go?
No, you go again.
Okay, I am going to submit to you a personal favorite and one that may be argued with a little bit. Doc Robinson.
Okay, that's fair. I'll allow it. I don't have him on mine, but I'll allow it.
Doc Robinson, because this is the era of basketball that I grew up with paying attention to the most for the first time. So, I'm just then a teenager. I remember going to the SEC championship game in Atlanta to watch that team. And we know they obviously went to the NCAA tournament. They were ranked number 1 at one point. He was the point guard for them. You could argue that if your point guard is not the general that they need to be out there on the floor, that you're going to really struggle. So Doc Robinson, to me, when I talk about all those factors, longevity, what do they mean for the legacy? I got to give him credit. I think if we did a specific point guard one, he's definitely got to be in discussions for that. So I'm going to even just throw him on the general guard.
Sure. I like that. I think that he definitely was on my cut list. And I'm going to go with one that does not meet your 6'4" criteria. But I did not know about that criteria until
I did throw you a loop
until pre-show. So he's only a couple inches taller. But as a shooting guard, primarily, now he also played some small forward, primarily a shooting guard. I'm going with Wesley Person from Brantley, Alabama, brother of Chuck, an elite scorer who has plenty of records of his own and did some incredible things professionally as well. Wesley Person is going to make mine. But Doc Robinson was I agree with you totally on pure point guards for sure. But he did not make mine.
I will say this about the Wesley Person edition. I wanted to put him on here, and he's actually the reason I made the 6'4" parameter.
Totally fair.
Because I was like, he's probably going to make either of those lists for me. That's a little bit of a spoiler for when that one comes up.
Sure.
So I wanted to be a little bit more, that's not fair, but to give somebody an opportunity to get that shout out on this specific Mount
Rushmore. Fine.
Because I agree. If we're saying guard, which some people would say that counts, and I don't disagree with that necessarily, he's definitely on there. But for me, that's a preview. He's not on this one for me, but he definitely deserves to be considered. All right. Me next.
Yep.
Should I do the other easy one?
It depends on what's easy. Yeah, go do it. Go ahead and do it.
Oh, you sure? Because I think I'm going to take one from you.
That's fine.
Okay. Bryce Brown. Is Bryce Brown on your Mount Rushmore of Auburn guards?
Bryce Brown is on mine. He would have been. It was between him and Eddie Johnson. For me,
this is why we're friends, Austin.
It was between him and Eddie Johnson, and I'll be honest. Look, I'm not going to hide from this. I'm 28. And recency bias surely played a part here. I'm fine admitting that. But Bryce Brown edged out Eddie Johnson for me. How could he not? Shooting that thing from way downtown.
He did it. He brought in the song. Now, listen, I think that Bryce Brown is one of the best for the way I laid out my factors in representation. He is on the stat books. His legacy of what he went through at Auburn and led them to is incredible. He is on a lot of the metrics in terms of guards, especially 3-point percentage. So he checks a lot of those boxes. I don't know if Bryce Brown's ever going to reach the level of, having his number retired or anything like that. But to me, when you talk about someone who maybe is not going to fall into that category, if you look at a lot of things with the Bryce Brown story,
agreed,
he's got to be on it.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, and when you look at, I don't want to bring up bad things, but Bryce for his freshman year was a little inconsistent. It was a possibility was there on the court, did some things off the court that he's not proud of,
right?
And got into some trouble, but stayed through his entire career at Auburn, and ended up being incredibly successful, obviously. But also, I just love to see that trajectory of Auburn men and Auburn women, and how the university changes them, how they become adored by the university, and all those things. So Bryce, yes, obviously, all the 3-pointers, all the record books, it's there. He will forever be remembered with Bruce Pearl and Auburn basketball. But off the court and his journey through Auburn is special.
All right, so let me just take stock of where we're at. We both agree, no question, John Mengelt.
Yep.
We both agree Bryce Brown is on this. You had
Wesley Person.
Based on my parameters, I had Doc Robinson. That
Correct.
Leaves number 4. Would you like to share your number 4?
If you know me at all, you know who number 4 is. My dog is named after him. Don't let Emily tell you differently. Even though he is taller than me, I think that we're the same height. I have adored him since the minute he stepped on campus, and the success he brought to Auburn basketball, and that's Mr. Jared Harper. Jared Harper is 1,000% on my Mount Rushmore. It's total bias, it's total recency, and there are plenty that could probably take his spot. But I have loved Jared Harper since the minute Bruce Pearl said he's worth the price of admission, because he was that and all much more. The perfect floor general, could shoot it, could pass it, and had the speed that you need. He's the epitome of what an Auburn point guard is for Bruce Pearl's offense, and I love Jared Harper immensely. And so he is officially and especially on my Mount Rushmore.
Are we declaring man crush? Is that what we're declaring?
Pat, we're way past that.
Well, I mean, all right. What a show. What a segment for you. I love the pick of Jared Harper. I do. I think it's smart.
This is going to be ridiculous.
I think it is. It is a good one.
This is absurd. I can't believe it.
It is one that I really, really, really wish that I had put on mine. Unfortunately, when you talk about people that you just adore, there's another one out there that I think means more to this program in many ways, and even off the court too, in terms of being a representative of Auburn.
Oh, I know which way
You would know exactly, and one could argue lit the flame in a way for the Bruce Pearl era when nothing looked like it could be lit, even with Bruce Pearl in his first year. You want to say it?
No,
Say it.
He's in Michigan.
Say it.
It's Mr. KT Harrell.
It is KT Harrell, just in on my 6'4" parameter. Love that.
Is he 6'4"?
He is 6'4", based on Auburn's website. Based on that, he falls into this list for me. His legacy of how long he was here. He has been part of some great programs as a basketball person. He has been able to be part of now Michigan, but he is part of FAU's team and so many other things too. He's been part of our staff.
Right.
I love me some KT Harrell, and that's probably the same way that you feel about Jared Harper.
Do you have a man crush on KT Harrell?
I have a man crush on KT Harrell.
I've already established mine's far past a man crush.
Well, I won't go that far. You've gone way too far.
That's probably smart. This is going to be on the internet, so that's probably smart.
Yeah. I'll just leave it at that. But KT Harrell for you, Jared Harper for me finishes out our Mount Rushmore of Auburn guards. With just a few minutes we have left in this segment, I thought it'd be fun to bring up maybe, I don't know if you had them, but I have some people I'd like to give shout outs to that deserve to be in the discussion.
Some honorable mentions,
but and I think some of them really don't have as strong a case to be there, but I'd like to give them shout outs. Is that fair?
Sure.
I'll give you a few. And if you have some, you can give me a few. I had Eddie Johnson on there.
Yes.
I think he is, if you look at numbers and stuff, and obviously well before our time, he definitely deserves to be in consideration. Some would argue he needs to be on there. I had Jared Harper as my honorable mention there. I'm going to throw two out to you that I think we had their potential ripped away from us. And I would argue that had we seen a tournament played, we would be talking about specifically one of them even more than we currently are, but maybe both of them, Javon McCormick and Samir Dowdy.
Yeah.
That team, I think, was poised to do another special thing in the tournament led by those two. You want to talk about having great guard play? Those two. And what a cool story it would have been with Samir and what he was involved with that foul and that wasn't necessarily foul in the Final Four matchup with Texas Tech. I got a few more, but what do you got?
Yeah, I had Eddie Johnson. You had Doc Robinson on yours. I had Doc Robinson off mine. Chris Denson is a guy who has a lot of points and a lot of tribute to his name, just in a bad era of Auburn basketball, but went through a lot. Definitely loved by the Auburn fan base. Who was the other one I had? I had another one.
I can throw some more out if maybe that'll spark your memory.
Yeah, go ahead. There's someone more recently.
Dwayne Reed.
Yep.
Wes Flanagan, our former assistant coach, but he was a basketball player as well. Larry Chapman, my former head coach at AUM. I played for him for 1 year. That's a throwback as well, but he deserves a shout out too. I had Chris Denson as well. Is that any of the ones that you were thinking of? Yeah,
I forgot about Larry Chapman. Man, that's really gonna bug me. Who the last one I was thinking of?
He's gonna shout it during another segment, just like 2 episodes from now. That's who it was.
Oh yeah, you'll definitely hear that. But yeah, I think any of those guys too. I love how you mentioned this with KT Earl. Any of those guys early on that just kind of like Mustafa Heron. I wouldn't put him on my Mount Rushmore by any means, but one of those first big recruits, big 5-star guards Auburn and Bruce Pearl got. I know he ended up leaving, but you think about those guys who were just program changers in the sense of perspective and things like that. I think that matters.
Yep. I can't let this segment end without a couple final ones. More so what ifs. I think Taj Shamsuddin. If he had not gotten hurt, he would have been
like a million times.
Oh, he would have been Jared Harper before Jared Harper, because it was. I know that's a big step out, but I love Taj Shamsuddin, and I think if he hadn't gotten hurt in his junior year, we're talking about a guy that shocked the world in his senior year.
Yeah,
under Bruce Pearl, a second year under Bruce Pearl, and then in the what if realm, had they stayed with us, Davian Mitchell.
Oh, definitely.
Mitchell and Sharif Cooper what if they had played more than, they had with us?
Yeah. Well, and Sharif with the COVID year, well, I guess in like the year after COVID, or you know what I mean, the season of COVID, with everything. I mean, not many people even saw him with their own eyes, right?
Yep.
I didn't, and so I think that that plays a point too. And obviously, if he played more that season and more in his Auburn career, I think he would definitely be talking about him. But that's not how the way it worked.
So keep in mind, folks, that this is our opinions. You're going to have differing ones that shouldn't have been on there, ones that you think should have, even in our honorable mentions. So let us know out there. And keep in mind that we will be doing probably 2 others around this, no set parameters when that's going to happen, around quote unquote forwards and quote unquote centers / big men. You could probably already think of who are going to fall into those categories. But in the meantime, you be thinking about it. Let us know. And of course, we want to hear from you about the Mount Rushmore of Auburn basketball guards. Our final topic for this episode, we are in summer, and is the College World Series over, Austin?
It would have been. Tennessee won today, so we have an extra game. Game 3, winner take all tomorrow.
Okay, so maybe by the time you're hearing this, they are playing the game or finished with it, but we're not here to talk about how annoying, what's his name, Tony Vitello is.
Look, there is no win with these 2 teams. We got annoying on either side, whether it's male cheerleaders or their Ken Barbie head coach.
I'm more intrigued by Texas A&M than annoyed by them, but
no, anyway. There's something wrong there. There's not. Something is very wrong there. Anyway, we'll talk about that another time.
Well, that's another time. We can do a segment about which fan bases annoy us the most. We all know the number 1 and number 2. Let's talk about this baseball program. I don't know that we'll have a lot to discuss maybe until some of the renovations are done of the stadium for this phase of it. But this is a good time, I think, before things get going with the MLB draft, that process of assessing where the team is at in terms of roster moves and the transfer portal. We are dealing with a season that was not good, and nobody knows that better than Butch Thompson, his staff, and the players. And there's obviously a need to have some new blood, and you do that through recruiting. You do that obviously these days a lot through the transfer portal. So let's talk about a few of those. I guess, Austin, is it as simple as we just more pitching, or what is your mindset for this team and its focus in the offseason about what the roster needs to be doing for itself?
I think pitching is far and away the biggest thing that they're wanting to address, either through high school ranks or transfer portal. It doesn't take much to know that that's kind of where it started and ended, is in terms of where games were won and lost. Mm-hmm. Not every game, but certainly most of them, and that doesn't take a lot to see. But I mean, I think too they're also addressing, and we'll get into it a little bit in the X's and O's, that they're addressing the position players on what they hope to have certain lineups look like next year, and be able to capitalize on their strengths that they know they have, and insert people where they think that maybe they can emphasize on that. So, but I mean, I think it starts and ends with pitching. That's been the biggest complaint for most throughout this past season. And I think they've done a great job, and still maybe have plans to upgrade that pitching staff ahead of next year. So I'm not worried. I love to see that Butch Thompson and the staff have gone after it and attacked that need quickly and efficiently. And I think that should make you feel good about that. They recognize this is a problem. This is where things kind of went wrong, and shocker, they see that better than any of the others of us.
Yeah, it's like fans scream, the pitching's so bad. It was like, don't you think they see that better?
What do you want them to do? Throw them in the Red Barn Lake? I mean, come on.
Well, and there's a need for people to do their part. And if you are clamoring for more pitching, folks, there's On to Victory. Sign up, help them out. And
I mean, it's not the way any of us thought the world would ever work, but if you want to contribute to make Auburn more talented, you have a avenue to support in that way.
To do that legally. So we're talking about this in light of it's the end of June. The draft is still to come. The portal's still active right now, but this felt like maybe not I don't want to call it a stopping point, but kind of a window of opportunity for us to kind of assess where we're at. Let's talk about some names that have recently come in. You're going to hear some very familiar teams in this. Lucas Steele, a position player from Stanford. I believe could do either. And do you know where he falls into it?
Primarily catching.
Okay, catching. So I had him mixed up with somebody else. Getting somebody from Stanford. It's been done before. One Sonny DeShera is one that comes to mind. So that seems to be a recipe of success for Coach Butch Thompson. Maybe we'll see it again. You just never know. And he's got to play behind Ike Irish. So maybe some time for him to cut his teeth behind a guy like that, or maybe it alleviates Ike Irish not having to play the entire season at catcher. Eric Snow, another player in the field from USF. Andrew Dutton, the first of the Duttons we'll discuss, from Birmingham Southern, and Bristol Carter, an outfielder from Eastern Carolina. I want to mention these last two. Dutton, obviously, from the Birmingham Southern story, if you followed the college sports, but college baseball special stories, Birmingham Southern closed. So in a way, we're helping. Can we say that we're helping the legacy live on by getting one of their players?
Sure. Go for it.
But the one that seemed to get a lot of news and a lot of clamor this week was Bristol Carter coming in as an outfielder from East Carolina. I think a lot of people are excited about him. I think this is off of the heels of the announcement that Chris Stanfield will be leaving and went to a rival, to LSU. So that center field spot has been opened up. Now Cade Ballew's still here, so that there's probably your option there. But somebody's got to compete and win the spot out. So is that what you see? Is this almost an opportunity for a replacement of Chris Stanfield?
Yeah, I think, I'm not totally sure that everyone is pegged certainly into the center field, left field, right field spots. I think you've got an outfield, right? I think these are all athletic guys. You mentioned Bristol Carter. He's just finished his freshman year. And as did Cade Ballew. And so both young guys that are both very athletic, I think they can fit anywhere. We didn't talk about it with Lucas Steele, but I just get the feeling that with Ike Irish had to play in right field, or when he had to catch, obviously more energies being what's the word? Thank you. You just said expelled. Yes, expended. And his best trait and best way to help Auburn is at the plate. I really think they want him to DH. That's just totally my opinion. No one has told me that. And I think that's just how he can best serve Auburn. So I think Lucas Steele might be there to take the catching spot. And I think they'd like to get Ike Irish out of the outfield. So whether Carter's in center, left or right, whether in Ballew's in center, left or right, or however it shakes out, I think that is definitely a way to help them do that and tinker with that lineup and see what works best. But Bristol Carter looks like a fantastic addition for Auburn, and coming off a team that hosted a regional.
Mm-hmm. So that addresses some players out there in the field, some needs there. Again, we're not done with the transfer portal and stuff like that in terms of, we don't know if Auburn's completely done themselves, but the cycle still continues on. This addresses some of the departures in the transfer portal, like Chris Stanfield, Ty Malden, Gavin Miller, Caleb Freeman, and I'm sure there's still some technically spots that need to be filled there. Pitching that has been brought in. We addressed the need for pitching. Right. Sam Dutton from LSU. So we traded, I guess, players, if you want to look at it. It feels like the old Bo Nix and Robbie Ashford switch, maybe, not to say that one got the better deal there. But I'm not implying that. I know some people are reading that into it. I'm just saying that
I have no comment at this time.
That you've misbehaved enough this episode, so you just sit right there and you take a sip of your drink and you be quiet.
What did we get from South Carolina for Robbie Ashford going to South Carolina?
I don't know. Doesn't seem like much, but
cock-a-doodle-doo.
All right. Ryan Hetzler, pitcher from Cal Baptist, and Mason Cock from Creighton. I want to say Caton when I see it, but it's Creighton. I think when you talked about with the position players, the fielders, Bristol Carter got the news this week. Mason from Creighton, obviously, I think got a lot of people excited as maybe one of those pitchers that we can look forward to next year.
Yeah, and Mason's a relief pitcher, I believe, correct?
Yes. Yeah,
yes.
That's how I understood it. And that's the thing, too, is everybody says that these guys are going to fit into one role. folks, Joseph Gonzalez was a starter for the last several years, even during his injury, and had to go to the bullpen this year. So you just never know.
You never know. And these guys, baseball is, and I know they don't compete year round, but it's a year round sport. And so we never know what these guys are going to be looking to do. But I think Mason was one of the highly regarded transfers out there. And I think is expected to come in and help significantly. So I think, if it were me, there was still a position of need for that guy who can be a starter. You can never have enough starting pitching. You can never have enough pitching in general, especially in the SEC. A guy that can maybe be a weekend starter for you is still something that maybe can be looked at. I hate to even bring it up like this, but those guys can be expensive. And so I think that is probably what maybe Auburn's looking at in the rest. I do want to caution, you kind of brought it up on is Auburn done in transfer recruiting? Remember how many guys last year Auburn had committed in the transfer portal, and it looked like they were going to be significant additions, and then they get drafted.
Yep.
And then they have a decision to make, and nothing's binding about these commitments, right? Like nothing is as in legally or as in pen to paper. Like these guys can drop out of school if they get drafted. And I don't even remember his name, but he was that shortstop everyone was excited about last year, and he gets drafted suddenly in the 10th round by the Boston Red Sox. It's like, do you blame him? And so
no.
I don't think Auburn's in any jeopardy with these guys that they have so far, but also we don't know.
Right.
And so if these guys are eligible to be drafted, they certainly can. So I would not be so sure that Auburn's done here necessarily by if they want to be or not. I'm sure they'd love to get all these guys they've recruited, but this thing is really finicky with a draft that is kind of in the middle of all this.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up. And that's why we were debating when we do a discussion about this. Because the reality is we did this segment tomorrow morning. There may be somebody new who's left or who's come in. And, that changes the dynamics of what we've been discussing here. The MLB draft, when it happens, as you just addressed, it can ruin things
which is like next week, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So there's not a perfect time to discuss this outside of all of that being done. And I think looking at how schedules lay out, we may get to a point where it's going to be hard to squeeze a larger segment like that in. But what is the point we want to make from all this? Auburn is losing some key players and some fan favorites like a Chris Stanfield. We brought up Zach Crotchvelt left, a couple of weeks back ago on a previous episode, and many others. I'm just naming two off the top of my head. But they're bringing in some of that talent. They're bringing in some of those positions of need, and they're addressing it right now. Folks, they understand what the needs are better than us. Trust the process. And as we tell you, trust Butch Thompson. He hasn't steered us wrong yet. And yes, I know this last season was awful. Hasn't steered us wrong yet. I don't know how much more plainly I could say it, folks, to be honest with you.
No, you're right. Look, if you've listened to this show once, you know that we are big Butch Thompson fans and very, very trusting in what his plan is and vision is for the Auburn baseball program, regardless of how this year went. That has not changed for me with these transfer portal additions. In fact, it's only enhanced it. So exactly. I couldn't be more excited. If they want to take one more outfielder, I got the guy if they're interested. But you can just call me on the weekends.
You're not talking about yourself, are you? You have no more eligibility left.
Not that I'm aware of.
I'd love to see
my
not running out there.
No, we don't. That was I'd be heckled by the frat guys out there in center field. They'd be throwing me into the pool into the pool that we've discussed.
Yes, but I would love it and I would enjoy it. And it would just make
it'd be great content. We'd do a whole podcast just us watching it. I'm sure
it'd be a whole show of me just like having it on the screen, reversing back and run.
It'd be on my TV that's not here right now in the background.
With that, it's a great segue. Next time, maybe you will have that particular TV back. We'll see. You just never know here at the Auburn Experience podcast. Episode 82 in the books. Thank you guys for joining us. If you want to keep up with me, do so on X at Kyle Loomis 24. Where can they keep up with you?
Yeah, at Austin G. Scott. I'm always down to cause some trouble, so hit me up.
As you so very well displayed during this show. So
hey, I kept it together for the part we were worried about. I just want to make that very clear.
Wasn't going to even address it, but somehow you're addressing it. So somehow I'm going to close this show before you get us in more trouble. With that, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Until we talk to you again. War Eagle.
War Eagle.
All right, folks, that is the show. Stick around. I will be hanging out for a few more minutes with you all. But before Mr. Scott goes away, he has the floor for final thoughts, addressing of comments, anything like that.
I was gonna look. I really still can't remember who I wanted to bring up. That Chris Porter wasn't a guard, right? That's the name that keeps popping in my head, but I don't think that I would have.
There are so many forwards that people would say are guards,
Yeah.
and that's why I kind of had to for myself.
WT said Marquise Daniels. I saw Damian Fishback in here. Those were all people that I don't know. It's like they hiked it. They were too tall, and I know that's why you set your parameter, but it's like the look of people,
Yeah, here's the issue. I think, and I almost brought it up during the show. Damian Fishbag, I'm trying to find 6'5". Yes. I made the wise decision to not include him under my parameters. He's 6'5".
Yeah.
So he would be more of a forward. I don't know that he's going to make that group for forwards for me. That it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
When we discuss forwards for Auburn, I mean, there's a lot of recency bias.
I got two in the locks.
I've got 1, 3 in the locks. I think it's not
you have 3 locks.
I think I have 3 locks for the forwards of Auburn's Mount Rushmore. We'll get there. Okay. A lot of recency bias. That's all I'm saying. Anything else?
No. Just let me know when we're doing that segment far beforehand.
Oh, of course.
I'll need more research on that one.
You covered exactly who I thought we needed to cover in that one. So even with me throwing you for that loop, there were some really obvious ones there.
There's not. I don't think it's necessarily locks like the people we've talked about with Cam and stuff, but there were. When you look at Auburn's guards, Auburn basketball doesn't have the most luxurious history, and so the guards are pretty easy, I think.
Yeah, pulling back the curtain a little bit more here. I almost said, let's do point guards. And then I started looking at it, and there's going to be so many arguments for, well, technically he wasn't a point guard. He just kind of had to play point guard for us. And I'm like, okay, that's fair. So that's why I said it makes more sense to go guards, forwards, big men, because there you can really make some cases one way or the other. And I have honestly, Austin, outside of the height thing that I parameter set, I have no problems with Wesley Person being on that if it needs to be on.
Yeah. No, I know. And I think he was 6'5". Like, I mean, it's and that's probably the day he was feeling tall. So I've never had one of those days. I just want to make that clear. I've never had one of those days where I felt tall.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry.
just less short. That's all.
Just less short. It doesn't. It's not about the size of the dog in the fight. It's about the size of the fight and the dog.
Sure. I really wanted my Jared Harper's namesake is right here, and she would not come on screen during our session. I really wanted her to.
If only we were skilled enough to pull things like that off during the show.
She's just living her best life right here, sleeping.
Next time.
Sir,
thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Thanks so much. We got another Mount Rushmore we got to do at some point, by the way.
It's on there, I promise you. And that's not on there. So
it is on there.
Oh, what's that? We're losing you. Good night.
Yeah.
All right, folks, hang out with me for just a few more minutes for what was a wild and crazy episode recording there. That definitely, I mean, he broke me for a little bit. So we've got about, I normally stay on here for the full hour, depending on how many questions, comments you guys have that you'd like for me to address. I'll look back during the show. That'll kind of determine how much longer we stay on. But while you're thinking about it, go ahead and post them in. Smash the like button if you haven't. You know the drill. I would love to give you a couple reminders to address with you all, like things to keep in mind. Our next scheduled live stream here on YouTube. It's our normal schedule, Sunday nights, Wednesday nights. Wednesday night, we have the Auburn Family Night, which is my favorite night, to be honest with you. We're going to talk about anything and everything, kind of like we do here, but you guys are the stars of the show, especially your comments, your questions, and your calls. It's our live call-in Auburn Family Night this Wednesday at 8 Eastern time. Tell a friend, get them there, join us. We do TikTok live streams as well most weekdays, and I expect to do the majority of them this week unless we have just a ton of crazy news. So don't miss out on those if you are on that particular app. And just stay tuned. There'll be a lot of clips and other segments and videos and social media content throughout the week. Facebook, Instagram, X, We mentioned TikTok, podcasts. If you're not subscribed to the audio podcast, we enjoy you guys being here for video. Make sure you do that too. There is content there that you will only get through the audio podcast. That's why we stress that you follow, subscribe everywhere you can. There are morsels of things that you only get at these particular places and platforms. So let me address some things here. We got more of a question about E2C stuff. No ad tonight. No, we did not have an ad. That's actually been a normal occurrence with this. Don't want to go too much in the details of it, but with the sponsor that we had, the fourth week every month, they were not on that one. But we are always looking for more sponsors. So if you would like to do so, or if you know a business that would like to help support, let us know. We are especially looking for some Auburn focused ones or anything like that. So let us know if you know anybody. Let's see here. Dalton says, I always appreciate you trying to keep things together and Austin trying to go off the rails. Well, honestly, I think I have been more susceptible to do that than Austin. He's had to rein me in a couple of times. The problem is I'm more of the host, and so I can kind of choose when we go off the rails and keep it there. So Austin was in rare form tonight, even pre-show. So it was, I don't know what's going on this summer with Austin, but he's having some fun. What do they say for Bo? He's having fun, feeling great, or this year he's going to win the Heisman. I forget that phrase we used to use for all that. A few more minutes here. Any final comments, questions, things like that? I'm looking back through some of y'all's comments about the Mount Rushmore segment, and I see there's going to be some opinions about who should have been where and discussions about who's a guard, who's a forward. We saw Porter thrown out there, Damian Fishbag, a lot of that. I'm so glad that Austin agreed with me about no discussion about John Mengelt. I really wanted to put Eddie Johnson in there too, but I had to kind of go with my own personal bias a little bit, and that's why Bryce Brown is in there. And so that's why I thought the way I did. Wesley Person as well is one that could fall into either category, and that's why you saw it on Austin's. But we covered a lot tonight, folks. A little basketball, a little baseball. Obviously, football is always in the conversation. We even talked about the band tonight. So I feel like we have a very well-rounded Auburn experience this evening. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you for being patient with the delayed start tonight for some scheduling things that we had going on behind the scenes. But as always, our plan is to start at 9 Eastern time on Sunday evenings for this particular show. We hope that we can see you next Sunday. Invite a friend to that as well at 9 Eastern time for episode 83. You guys are the best little family within the Auburn family, and we appreciate you so much. Until I talk to you again. War Eagle.